once again to Beyond the Physical with your host, me, Sitara Faye. I am here with a fellow light channeler, someone that I have just admired and explored through her Instagram. So definitely find her there. But Ala, I'm so thankful and so honored to have you here. Is there anything that you would like to share with us as something that is, let's say, your favorite thing to do?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always very exciting, when we start all connecting together and to see what comes up for what is needed for the collective. I just really enjoy this time because it's always beautiful, to see what direction you get taken in, and what comes up. And I think even for me as an individual, I learned so much through connecting to other humans and through all these experiences that I'm just really very, very grateful.
Yes, I love to hear that and can definitely just attest to the beauty that shows up, especially when you're expressing something through your heart. It's like the magnetism and what comes into our world is so beautiful. So, can you share with me, how did you start channeling light codes, and like what was going on in your life when that started coming through?
Okay, so I've always had psychic intuition and psychic vision from when I was a young child. Like I was one of those kids who would, see shadows in her room and not be able to sleep, and then no one would believe you. So then you kind of like blocked it off. So that was kind of like my growing up. I had prophetic dreaming for many years as well. I would say that everything kind of opened back between 2017 and 2018. I had really, really intense life experiences. I had basically like a situation where I ended up in hospital and I almost died. I had a full-blown physical contact with ETs, like an abduction. So I kind of had a lot of things come together until my channel was, it was almost like kind of like blown open. I think it was in the span of like a few different months. I had a lot of like language channelers work on me at the same time. I think it was about 7 or 8 of them in this context of this kind of like event in the desert. And then I did a little bit of work with some plant medicine as well. My hands activated first, and then my throat broke through like I think 1 or 2 months after that. And then just from there, it was kind of like a journey of getting to know myself and trusting my channel and trusting, what was coming through. I think when I started posting videos back in 2018, there were probably like maybe 50, not even like 20 light language channelers online out there. Now there's thousands of them. So it's been really beautiful to see how this like really high vibrational frequency healing modality has been coming through, and it's been kind of like growing exponentially as has the community, and as has the frequency, and as has the awakening.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. It's exciting to see like the ripple effect of being activated. And I talked about this last night because we actually had an artist that paints light codes and has painted a whole deck. And so we were talking about that kind of modality. And mine similarly, they come through vocal tones and also through signing and through dancing. But what I've noticed with it, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, is that especially since the pandemic, whether it be that we're activating each other more consistently, or also that the global climate has kind of almost like put the pressure on, in the same way that we create diamonds. It's like the pressure of what's been going on has illuminated that kind of like fed upness maybe of light workers, where they've gone, okay, enough of this, like it's time. But yeah, what have you seen in the last couple of years of how that has really started to catch on?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen also a big grow in the masculine community as well. So when I first started working online, I moved all my business online with the pandemic, like about 85 to 90% of my client base was feminine. And then the next year it went down to like 75 to 25. And then the next year a little bit less. And now like my client base is 50-50, which is really, really beautiful to see. So I've been seeing a lot more in the masculine, kind of like waking up and catching up. We kind of like dragging along and pulling, and they kind of like catching up in that aspect. But definitely for sure, a lot of people started looking for answers beyond, what was shown, and told us, and started to look within, but also into like external aspects, and like, you know, energy workers and healers and whatnot. Like, it's very funny because about 35% of my client base is people in the medical field. So it's very interesting, because you would think that they would have a lot of answers, but they actually are like, well, now that we've seen all the, you know, the medical, and we've got all the scientific answers, we've seen that there's more. So where do we go to? We actually turn to energy workers. So I thought that was, it's quite interesting to see how that's kind of like developed as well. But for sure, like what I've also noticed in the light language is you'll kind of like learn and pick up from someone else's dialect as well, and then you'll activate about like 20 to 25% of my clients activate while they're working with me. I have a lot that, I'm sure for you it's the same, I have a lot that come to me that are activated, and then they kind of open up more. So yeah, it's kind of like this domino effect, I would say.
Yeah, I could absolutely agree. When it came through for me, it was March of 2020, and it was a matter of 10 minutes, like, and it was from a YouTube video. It was like a 5-minute YouTube video, and all of a sudden, a matter of 10 minutes, it was like douche, and everything shifted for me in a big way. But I was already leading classes and meditations, and so I think within like the first 2 months, I had 10 to 15 of my clients and students and friends that were around me that all got activated, and all of us were like, what is going on? Like, this is so nuts. But to the medical field thing, I find that really interesting, because the medical people that are in medicine, it's like they're very intellectual. And I find that with a lot of my clients, the ones that have gotten a lot of positive feedback from their academia and their smarts and their brain intelligence, it's often hard to kind of rewire that to bring them into their heart and their heart-centered consciousness. But what I found in the medical field, and especially with nurses, is that the whole industry it's like mostly earth angels. It's mostly embodied people that are there to help. And so it's like that piece of remembering. I'm not surprised to hear you say that, is what I'm saying, really. And especially with the medical mysteries that are going on, it's like it's clear that there's something bigger happening. So that's what I find really exciting about this time in particular, like you said, is people looking for answers, and people looking for, like, where do we even go to find it? Because the priest isn't giving the answers, the government isn't giving the answers, like, you know, like these big questions. So yeah, I find that it's a really, really exciting time to be just expressing in this way. So I also, this is kind of a fun and little personal question, but I also saw that you recently went to Africa Burn. Is that close to you?
Yeah, I'm in South Africa, so yeah, I went there. It was in April.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually a couple hours from Burning Man here, so it was really fun to, like, I had a bunch of friends that from
So
here
I
went
get
there.
sent in different places of the world to do grid work. So what I'll do is I'll work on the ley lines, I'll activate and whatnot. And this was actually, I've been to the Karoo Desert at the Burn for, this was my 6th time that I went, but it was a new venue. So it was very interesting for me to see the dynamic of that and how that worked and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting. I think once you understand how the energetics behind everything works, everything is like, it's almost like a whole new world. You start seeing like a whole new world, you know, it's not your average and your standard experiences anymore. Everything has layers and depth and dimensions. So it's a very beautiful journey to be on.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I'm curious about the ley lines and the grid work, because I similarly have that like connection to the earth. But when you are in, so when you're like in the previous location that the burn was, and then this location, what did you notice was the biggest difference around, let's say, the accessibility to light that was available to people that are there?
So sorry, there was less. There
Yeah.
was a lot. It's almost like, because of how they structured it this time, the people behind it, the frequency of the people behind it is very different from the people who were behind the other venue before. So what I do is, depending of on where I am and what kind of work I do, I'll get sent to like very, very packed places with lots of humans, whether it's like concerts, festivals, and things like that. And then I'll open up my field and my whole system becomes one huge chakra and crystalline structure, and it kind of becomes like a vortex. And then what I'll do is I'll take in all the low vibrational frequency things of people, and I'll transmute them and I'll send them up into the light. So that's the kind of work that I was sent to do there, other than obviously also the clearing of the land and the activating and whatnot. So it's very interesting. Sometimes I get sent to places and I don't even know. Like last year I was sent to this beach in Mozambique. I didn't know. They were just like, you need to go there. And then when I got there, I had to clear a massacre of about like 400, 500, 600 mermaids, of which I was in that lifetime as well. So by doing that, I did some soul fragment retrieval within my own experience, but I also cleared the timeline for all the souls there as well. But I only knew when I got there, when I saw the beach, I was like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I hear you completely. So on that note, what would you say is like one of your most memorable or like pivotal psychic experiences that you've had so far?
You have had so many, eh? What do you want? Do you want aliens? Do you want demons? What do you want?
Let's go aliens first.
Yeah, I had a very intense, this was one, I mean, and those of you who watching this, who follow me will probably know, this was one of my main kind of like opening up experiences that I had. I had a very intense, I had 3 beings come into my room. I was in Italy, so it was 2018, and my frequency, I'd lowered my frequency. I was just like not in a very good space at the time, but from before I'd come from like healing and whatnot. Anyway, long story short, these beings were allowed to come into my field, and they're physically in the room, like they were physically there. So I was in the astral space, I was sleeping, but I couldn't fall asleep the night before. So basically it was like the next day I was flying back to South Africa, and I said, okay, like I need to go to sleep early, whatever. I couldn't fall asleep. I was struggling to fall asleep, and there was no reason for me to not fall asleep. Like it was just something was up, you know. And then as I fell asleep, it was about like 3 o'clock. So I'm very, very conscious in the astral. I do a lot of work in the astral realms. I've always been like that since I was a child. Like I've been lucid dreaming. I know what's going on. Like, you can't really trick me in the astral because I can see through it. So I was running, and I knew that like beings were coming to get me, and all of a sudden people start like dropping dead next to me, like kind of like a warning. And then I hide under this table, and then I start to feel like physically getting prodded in my lower back. So I get like catapulted back into my body. I lift up my head and I look to the side, and I was on a double bed, and then there was a wall, and between the wall and my face was a gray being, like staring directly at me. Like I saw its face, like he was wearing like a gray shirt with like sleeves like this and like a round collared neck. Then I get physically pushed back into the bed, and then I hear kind of like these beings leave. I was on the ground floor, and I'd left my window. There was a door window that I'd left open because it was summer, it was September, and it was really warm, and we were like in a safe complex, so it's not like anyone was going to come in or anything like that. So anyway, so they went out, and then obviously like I was in shock and things like that. It took me, I think I got up and I closed the window, and then it took me about 2 hours to get up and to actually go to the toilet because I was shaking, you know. So I knew what had happened to me. And then I went back, I flew back to South Africa the next day, and then I did, you know, the only conscious thing that anyone would do, I looked for a hypnotic therapist to go into regression, because I was like, I need to go back there, I need to see like what happened. So I think I asked about 5. And I said to everyone, I said to them, listen, I had aliens in my room, can you take? And everyone was like, no, I help people to stop smoking and whatnot. So, and then eventually the one lady said, yeah, I can help you. So I went there to her, and then I found out that she'd been a psychic for 9 years prior. So I was like, yes, this is exactly who I need. So she sent me back. I was in for about 3 hours, and I was sent back as my higher version of self. And I saw these beings. There were 3 of them. They were wearing these kind of like, almost like shields over their shoulders, but they almost felt like cockroaches. Like that's the kind of vibration, like insect, like it wasn't pleasant. And I dressed them and I commanded them to leave, and they all turned and looked at me. They were like, what is she doing here? She should be in bed there. She should not be accessing the quantum to come and see us. They were like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, we need to get out of here. Like, they were like, they didn't expect it. So they left. So that was a really, really empowering experience for me, because obviously then I had a perception switch. I was like, well, okay, if the bad ones are real, then so must be the good ones. So let me just try and get in contact with the good and nice ones. You know what I mean? So I think that was the most significant. I mean, I've had a lot of encounters and I've seen a lot of beings and whatnot, but that was probably the most significant one, because it's the one that really changed my life, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and sharing so openly. It's triggering a memory for me because I've had similar experiences, and the next kind of things that happened for me, I would say over the next couple days during that time, was I got absolutely schooled, and not in a bad or negative way, but I got schooled on false light and like this imitation light that is there. So can you speak to that, and how can somebody really be discerning, especially if they're starting to channel? How can someone be discerning with who they're talking to and who they're letting in? Because I see that as a huge kind of a gray area and a problem when people start to channel, and some of the people that are teaching people to channel. And so I would love to hear you speak on that.
Yeah, so I do also hold a masterclass on channeling, where I only
Mhm.
take about 12 people, and I speak about this a lot, and it's really, really important. So first of all, the clarity of anyone's channel is directly proportionate to the depths to which they've met themselves. If you have trauma, if you are poisoning your body with alcohol, if you're not leading a life that you're in your truth, your channel is going to be distorted. There's going to be distortion. Like this, it's not really like any halfway to do it. It's kind of like maths, to an extent.
Yeah.
It's like very, very black or white in that aspect. So I think, first of all, obviously, if you kind of like, sitting and trying to connect to your guys and doing things for yourself and whatnot, it's different than if you're out there like charging people for money for channeling. Do you know what I mean? There needs to be a different approach to it. If you're just doing it for yourself, then you still need to put gridding in place, make sure that you're protected, make sure that you're supported. I think a good way of discernment is whenever you're channeling something that is telling you what to do, it's not of the higher light. Whenever you're channeling something that says things like, oh, I am an ascended master, or this and that, it's not of a higher light. If anything comes through and says like, oh, this is your destiny, this is your fate, this is how it's supposed to be, that's not of the higher light. There always needs to be kind of like an understanding of your own sovereignty. Anything that puts themselves above you is not of the highest light. And I mean, when people first start channeling and opening, it's kind of like layers, right? You first start channeling a little bit in the 3D, and then you start accessing the 4D. So you access the lower tiers of the astral realms, which is where you'll have things that might kind of like trick you or say that there's something when there's something else. You want to get above that. You want to start channeling, I mean, your light language would be your 5D, and some people stop in 4D. Some people start channel people that have passed on and things like that. And that's also okay. But I think, yeah, I mean, going to someone that you trust is really important as well. Having someone that will guide you through the process of what channeling is and how to do it in a safe and supported way. Because a lot of the time I get told, oh, but isn't it, if I'm just in my heart, isn't that enough? No. We navigating polarity.
No.
Like, yeah, we navigating polarity, so we're not in fifth dimensional density just yet. We need to navigate the 3D and 4D. You need to have structures in place. No one teaches us in school how to use our energy. This is why people like me and you are here to help and assist and talk. But yes, the heart center is good, be in the heart, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I actually, when I was a baby psychic, like in my early 20s, I had a friend that was leading these Stargate meditations, who I absolutely love and adore, and I loved her Stargate meditations. But she would introduce us to the Pleiadians. Well, I started connecting with the Pleiadians, and they were doing some healing and helping work with me. And I remember laying in my bed, and they were there. I was there with them, and Archangel Michael came barreling in, because my thing is connecting with the angelic realm, and archangels was how I started channeling. So he came barreling in, and he was like, no, like put a full kibosh to it. And he was like, you need to be careful about who you're letting in. And this is like, I got a full talking to from Archangel Michael. I was like, okay, I hear you. That was my little baby psychic exploration sort of thing. And then as I've continued to, advance and expand in my own consciousness, some of that trickster energy, and even being in where people would say that they're in these ascended realms, and like knowing very clearly what angelic tones and angelic frequency feels like. And what I've noticed with the false light is like the false light will come in through the crown chakra, but it's almost like blinding, and then it will have that effect of like feeling high and feeling like woozy and like kind of distorted, but actually feeling high. Whereas what I've noticed is that that heart-centered connection is the embodiment, and you know that you are the only one in your field, in your body, and that emanation of like your soul's illumination, it's just a completely different experience. It's like it's grounded, it's present, you know that you're there, and that like crown chakra connection woozy stuff. It's, I call it like the Bali Gucci bag of light energy. Yes. So,
I
how would you describe? Because I think this also helps clear up a lot for people that are like, well, what is light language? Is blah blah blah. But how would you describe light language, and what is it doing when in somebody else when you're speaking it?
So, light language is a specific imprinting of vibrational frequency, whether it's spoken, written, or signed. And what it does is it bypasses the conscious mind and works directly onto the energy field, the etheric field, the DNA, the structure. So even like I always say this, and it obviously works beyond space and time. So it works in the quantum realm, so in your 5D and up. So I could be channeling light language today and, you know, program it so that it comes to you tomorrow and you receive it tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? The codes are intelligent. Obviously, for convenience's sake, you'll channel and then, you know, you'll be there and people will be there and whatnot, but it's not really necessary. To me, light language is the new technology that is coming through to assist the planet, to assist the, you know, the raising of consciousness and the vibrational frequency. There's, in my own experience, there's many kind of like different dialects. I mean, I'll channel technology, I'll channel beings. I've got a basic imprinting of light language that I channel, which is my own. It cannot really be translated verbatim because it's not really a language like your English or your German or your Italian would be, which are man-made languages. I say man-made because we all come, you know, from the same, but it wouldn't, you know what I mean? So you kind of get a feeling, a tone, you know, an understanding of it, which obviously comes with time and practice. But I would say that, yeah, it works directly on the structure, and it's a vibration that bypasses the conscious mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's, I think one of my favorite ways to receive it or explore it is simply just looking at a photo of it scribed. Like that, I love the way that you just like feel that, oh, like, yay, it's there. It's so lovely. I had a funny intuition after I started channeling it, and you know, I had lightning bolts shooting out of my feet. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Amazing.
I had this gut feeling to watch the movie The Fifth Element, which was one of my absolute favorites when I was younger. And so I'm like, that's so interesting and so specific, but like, I'm down. This is a great intuitive ping. So I watch it. And I realized in watching it again that Lilu is speaking light language. And so the priest is then also talking about, you know, the ancient language of source that's coming through her. And oh my gosh, it was just it was a moment for me, like a starstruck moment of, oh my gosh, this has been here the whole time. And I just like glanced over it. I didn't even recognize or notice that that was a thing in this movie. And then it just resonated so deeply. And I think that's one of the things that I get really excited about is being able to make light language something that's comprehensible, and graspable. And like when I first started speaking it, it was kind of like something that those people do. You know, we, us magical people, we all have like our own lane. It's like those are the tarot readers and those are the astrology people. It's like, oh, those are the light language speakers. And then it completely popped my awareness and my consciousness open. Um, and so I have a question for you on that as well, is have you noticed, and especially after the story you just shared, but have you noticed your periphery of like how you can see in universal intelligence? And I'm using the word see intentionally, by what you can envision through your mind's eye, on like the universal scale rather than just Earth. Like, how does that show up for you?
You mean like on a collective level or on an individual level?
I mean, like for you specifically, the part of the reason that I'm asking is when my light codes came through within the next 48 hours, I just started seeing visions of ships surrounding the planet
Oh, okay.
and
No, I
different
could see,
species that were
I
there.
understand. Yeah, I could see through the
Yeah,
construct before that. Even before my light language, I could see through the quantum realm. So you see,
right,
yeah, so when I speak this psychic vision, and then this for me, I speak about vision. I teach this in
hmm
channeling as well for people to understand the difference between the two.
right,
So I'll see this another example, which is so funny. It's actually from the same director, from Luc Besson. If you look at the film Lucy, when she kind of like sees all like the lines of energy that goes through in the technology, and that's kind of what I see if I tune in and out of the construct. So I'll see the vibration of the space between the particles. So everything to me is moving when I tune in.
right.
I had a very intense experience back, I think this was also around 2018, when my vision activated very intensely, that I would like be driving and the cars in front of me would just like collapse and reform, and the road would kind of like start swaying. When I looked at nature, it stayed still because it was like grounded, but everything that was man-made kind of like started oscillating and moving and whatnot. So like my light language started with writing symbols, but that was like even before, like that was maybe like 2014, 15. And then when I looked back at drawings as a child, I was writing light language as a child as well. So I'll occasionally see like symbols as well in the air and things like that. I can see through the construct. If there's a ship that's cloaked, I'll see through the cloaking device. So my vision is kind of activated in that way, if it makes sense. And then I've seen beings when they present here, but they not in the 3D, they in the 5D, or in the overlapping dimensions. I'll be able to see that as well. So that's kind of like, yeah, I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated because I think of psychic abilities like fingerprints, right? It's like they all show up in a unique way. So I love to hear this like X-ray vision and like third eye. It's almost like 360 degree, but multidimensionally. So I love hearing how that. Yeah, I mean, okay, that's someone you want on your team, right? It's like, can you see through all the things? I absolutely love that. So before we hopped on here, you had mentioned wanting to share a light transmission with us. So is this feeling like a good time to
Perfect.
transition into that space?
Yeah, of course.
Beautiful.
Close your eyes and anchoring into your body as you find a comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. With every exhale, you release all that no longer serves you. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. As we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good, you're welcome in this space. Nato korotrieta creaisha nataka. Taim ratro korotriet, rana rieto kumrasi korotrieta kriatre atrena ratakra, triatre kurra serasieto kunratriatek anniate annie sheroatiatero korotrienara. Nre are oro tra triate ai shik oro triesara trieta kra, opening systems, opening calling in more light, divine rays, anchoring. This is going to assist with the root and with grounding, anchoring, more light, more rays coming in, opening to more light, opening, nyat kurwa sira te kurotiet karatrieta kra, nratrieto kuroi sira to kuro. As we clear and release, this is going to help with stuck emotions in the solar plexus. Releasing, letting go, calling in more light, divine rays, anchoring into structures, clearing peripheral, activating systems, clearing circulation, clearing, releasing, 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 releasing toxins, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. Expanding, expanding, expanding into more light, divine rays coming in, anchoring, anchoring, anchoring. Anchoring, anchoring, anchoring into more light of truth, more light of understanding. Quiero kuruto kuro isita creata riatere umra isiratakra. Reo ro 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 raya siero tokura ishinata kiera takrie sera sera. Moving up to the throat now, expanding, expanding, expanding. Expanding, more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 blue rays, green rays, aurora rays, rainbow rays coming in. Tiena ratro atriatic ura sies masuduk ratrik arut umrasiratakre. Niataria ru rei reina re aishiro tokuro ishiratakra. Opening, opening, opening. Opening to more light coming in, anchoring, 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 attuning, 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 attuning systems, activating, 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 activating divine codes coming in, anchoring, 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 anchoring. Naratu kumrasie sara zero tokuro ishiraka daria shiro tokuro trieta kre ro raya trai siena takrania tekira shie dario kumrasie soro tokura tria cesaria shena takiera taka tiate kuro chena takri atrea tri atukura isira takra na nie shiro tokuro. As you stay in a space of openness, you stay in a space of trust and understanding of selves, universal knowledge. Okay, memory activation, activating, calling in more light, divine rays coming in, anchoring into cranial structure, attuning, grounding, balancing systems. Attuning nervous system, spinal column, opening, more light, more rays, anchoring, shielding, clearing, grounding, anchoring, rising, closing, ceiling, Quiero toku ishinataka. Tarrato kumra sirataka. Rot urra sirataka. Rot urra sirataka. Okay. As you ground back into the body, you can anchor back into your physical vessel. Yes, you'll be clearing for the next few hours, possibly maybe even a few days. But yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so very much. One of the things that just came up for me there was seeing the vision of how many people you have been connecting with, obviously in the quantum field, and so many that don't know the presence of your work and don't know the presence of your light, especially as you're saying in these events. So for all of those, as I was feeling that gratitude, that collective gratitude coming through, I just simply want to say thank you for the way that you're showing up in the world and for doing the work that you're doing and being a leading edge way shower also for baby psychics, budding channels, all of that. It's so lovely to know that we have people who are real ones, and that is, it's just so powerful to be a leading example of that. And so truly from the bottom of my heart and speaking for the voices of those who are there, since I can feel them moving through, it's so powerful. And yes, I'm just honored and so thankful to have you here with us today. Is there anything else that you would like to share as a closing sentiment or anything that's popping up before we close this out?
I just want to quickly mention, I don't know if you'll put my links where people can find me through my website. So I do energy clearings. I've got a new mentorship program that's coming up in August where I'll be taking 10 people, and I'm going to actually coach them into their own spiritual business. So it's kind of like a business program. So I know a lot of people are struggling when they start, what direction to go. So I'm going to teach the energetics behind it, how the social media works, what direction is best for you and whatnot. So that's something that I've got coming up. I've got my masterclass on channeling on the 22nd of July. That one also only take 12 people. So in all the work that I do, you will get light language work done on you as well. So every session that I offer, I do energy work. Then I've got a live day retreat coming up as well in July, which is, I think, about 4 to 5 hours, where I'll be doing, I'll be anchoring crystal codes. I'll be doing some yoga, qigong, and then some sound journey and light language clearing as well. Then I do kind of like past life clearings, Akashic clearings. I take people through 6-week or 6-month programs. I train light workers. So if you are in this journey and want to become more embodied and learn, like, I'll train you to be able to do kind of like what we do, but in your own way, obviously with your own imprinting and through your own heart center as well. So yeah, that's kind of it. I've got collective healings every month as well, which is 45 minutes of channeled light language, only for $12. And that's quite a popular one because a lot of people seem to love that. And I also release a lot of content for free as well. And it's funny that you were saying how, like, about connecting with all these people, because I get daily messages from people saying that I don't know, they're not even clients, but they say to me, like, you were in my astral space and you were clearing me and you were showing me something and you were doing this for me. So I think it comes, when you start embodying more parts of your multidimensional self, then it's quite beautiful, because you're human. Can take a step back and be human, because there's such a big team that's assisting, that you're still doing the work, but there's lots of parts of you that are helping, as I'm sure you've also seen in your own work as well. So yeah, I guess kind of that. And then really, guys, like, trust yourselves, you powerful beings, you're infinite beings of light. Like, don't let anyone kind of like, take that down for you. Just always know that you always supported, protected. And sometimes it's difficult to be in that space of like trust and surrender. But you are always held, and nothing that you can't handle will get given to you, So I think, yeah, just a message of sovereignty, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Beautiful. Yes. And I double down on that one, the trusting yourself and knowing where to go. And I want to speak to the training, because I've been in this like professional psychic kind of industry for over 10 years now. And there's just such a massive and major difference between psychics who are trained and psychics who are untrained. And it makes, yes, we have natural abilities. Yes, we have natural gifts. But when you're working with somebody who has mastered their craft and has been working in these realms, it just makes such a big difference, and it just shortcuts the path. It shortcuts the time frame so much, and does help boost confidence, and does help, strengthen those muscles. And not only that, especially in this day and age, it builds the team so that we know that we aren't alone. I can't even tell you how many times, there's that blind spot, and you're like, you send the text, you're like, can you check? Like, there's something going on. I could use a little support on this one. Spirit doesn't give you anything you can't handle. And sometimes, like, whoa, I'm in so deep. Like, so yeah, right. You're like, I've had those moments.
Yeah, definitely.
But so with that, just thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your light, your illumination, not just with us, but again, in the way that you are in the world. I'm so honored. We do have all his connections here in the description below. So go ahead and check it out. Definitely follow her on Instagram, and yeah, explore and feel that resonance of how you can stay connected with her or even go deeper. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. For those that are here, I look forward to seeing you again in the next interview. Ciao, ciao. Mwah.